If you've been thinking about moving to Miami, you've probably already run the numbers on the tax savings. And yeah, they're real. But if you're honest with yourself, that's not actually the question keeping you up at night. The real question is whether Miami fits how your family actually live. That's a harder one to answer, and that's exactly what this video is about, because Miami is not the right move for every family, and I'd rather you know that going in. And helping families work through exactly that question, that's what this channel is built around. And if we haven't met, my name is Roque Castro. I'm a Miami-based real estate advisor, and every week I sit down with families who are somewhere in this same decision. No pressure, no agenda, just an honest conversation about what living here actually looks like so your family has what it needs to make that right call. If that's where you are, my contact information is down in the description below. So now, if you're ready, let's dive in. There's no shortage of content telling you why Miami is great. What's harder to find is someone willing to give you the full picture, the life that's waiting for you here, and the things that genuinely surprise you once you're in it. That's the version we're going to talk about. We're going to cover what daily life actually looks like here, what the school situation means for your planning, how geography shapes your decision more than most people expect, and what your money actually gets you in those neighborhoods families are choosing, and how to think about whether the move is the right one for your specific situation. So let's start with what people usually get wrong before they ever look at a neighborhood, and that's the picture they're carrying of Miami before they even arrive. They picture Miami through the lens of a visit, South Beach, the hotels, the nightlife. That image, it's not wrong. It's just a narrow slice of a much bigger city. The life you actually end up living looks more like this. Last Friday, my wife and I decided to get out, date night, no real plan. We wanted to just catch the sunset. So we headed over to the Cleat in Key Biscayne, sat out by the water, just watched the light change. Then we jumped back in the car and ended up at dinner in Wynwood. Two completely different parts of the city, two completely different feelings in one evening. Nobody mapped it out that way. It just happens. And that's just how Fridays go here. That freedom, the range of the city, the way an ordinary week can feel like something worth showing up for is what people don't fully grasp until they're living it. It's the part that's hardest to explain before you even get here. The culture is part of this too, and it's worth naming directly. Miami is one of the most internationally connected cities in the country. Spanish is woven into daily life, neighborhoods, restaurants, conversations. The city has its own rhythm, its own pace. For families who haven't lived in a city like this before, that takes some adjusting to. And that adjustment is real, and it's worth factoring in before you arrive. That's the part of Miami that's hard to convey until you're actually in it. But here are the things that are easy to convey, and that families consistently tell me they wish they'd understood sooner. The first one is schools. And I want to be straight with you here because this is where a lot of families get caught off guard. If you're coming from a high-performing public school district, you need to understand that Miami's public school picture is uneven. There are genuine exceptions, a handful of well-regarded public schools that families make decisions specifically around. But those are the exceptions, not the standard. For families who want to maintain that caliber of education, the path here runs through private school. Miami has strong options: Ransom Everglades, Gulliver, Christopher Columbus, Palmer Trinity. The quality exists, but access has become more competitive. Application rates at the top private schools are high and spots are limited. Families who plan to sort out school after they've already committed to a neighborhood sometimes find themselves in a position they didn't anticipate. The school conversation needs to happen before the neighborhood conversation, not after. And the tuition is significant. Top tier private school in Miami runs from $35,000 to $50,000 a year or more per child. For a family with 2 kids, that's a meaningful line item that changes the financial picture of the move. It needs to be in the model before you're under contract, not something that surfaces later. So that's the first layer of the financial picture, and it's one most relocation content skips entirely. The second layer is less about money and more about time, because the neighborhood you choose doesn't determine what you own, it determines how you spend your days. This is the one that reshapes daily life more than almost anything else, and it consistently surprises families who didn't think through it carefully before choosing where to live. Miami is large, sprawling, and built around the car. There's no subway connecting the neighborhoods families actually want to be in. You're driving. The question is, how much and when? And the traffic isn't just commute hours. Tourist season runs October through April. Art Basel, Formula One, the Miami Open, major events that shut down corridors and add time to routes for days at a stretch. A drive that takes 10 minutes at the right hour can take 45 minutes on the wrong afternoon. Where this matters for families is in the neighborhood decision. The further south you go, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, the more space you get, the larger the lots, the quieter the streets, and the more time you actually spend in the car getting to places you need to be. Closer in, Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, Morningside, Miami Shores, you trade some space for access and neighborhood character. Neither is wrong, but the wrong choice for your family's actual schedule is a daily friction that builds up fast here. Test the actual route at actual commute hours before you even decide on an area. Not a Saturday afternoon, but on a Tuesday morning. Once you understand the geography, the neighborhood decision starts to make a lot more sense. And so does the pricing, because the price of a home in Miami is really just a reflection of what you're trading off. A lot of families get their first real surprise. Most people come into this search having Googled Miami home prices or asked ChatGPT and seen a median somewhere around 675,000. And they think, okay, that's workable. What they don't realize is that number reflects the entire county. It includes areas that relocating families with kids almost never end up in. The neighborhoods we're actually talking about, Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, Pinecrest, a decent single-family home starts at $2.5 million and moves up from there. South Miami sits in the middle, roughly at $1.2 to $1.8 million, depending on the home. Palmetto Bay tends to offer more house for the money. Entry points closer to $1 to $1.5 million, larger lots, quieter pace. And what that money buys looks very different depending on where you are. Coral Gables was built to a standard architecturally. Consistent, well-maintained, its own city infrastructure. You feel that the moment you drive through it. Coconut Grove gives you character, mature tree canopy, walkability, but on a smaller lot than most people expect at that price point. Pinecrest and Palmetto Bay, they flip that script. More land, more house, more room, and you trade proximity for it. None of these is a better answer. They're different answers to different questions. Which one fits depends entirely on how your family actually operates, not on a ranking published online. Here's where I want you to slow down for a minute, because this is the conversation I have with every family before we look at a single property. Not which neighborhood ranks highest, not which school has the longest wait list. Those are the wrong first questions, and most families start there anyway. What does your family actually need from where you live, and does Miami honestly deliver on that? The way I walk families through this is with 3 questions. They sound simple, they're not always easy to answer honestly. First, are you moving toward Miami or away from somewhere else? Those are 2 different decisions. Families who are genuinely drawn to this city, the weather, the culture, the energy, the financial environment, tend to land well here. Families who are primarily escaping high taxes or a difficult situation back home sometimes find that Miami solves one problem and introduces several others they weren't expecting. Second, what does your family's actual daily life look like? And does Miami actually support it? Not the weekend version, the Tuesday version. Where are you working? Where are the kids going to school? How far is that from where you want to live? And what does that drive look like at 7:45 in the morning? If that picture works, you're in good shape. If it requires a lot of compromise to make it function, that friction shows up every single day. Third, have you modeled the full cost, not just the purchase price? Mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and in many cases, private school tuition on top of that. The families who thrive here knew that number before they even started touring. The ones who struggled often didn't find out until they were already under contract. For some families, those 3 questions resolve quickly. The finances are solid, the lifestyle genuinely appeals, the trade-offs are manageable, and when those things align, Miami tends to work really well. And some families when they're really honest with themselves, want things that Miami just doesn't offer. 4 seasons, kids walking to school, a great public school just 2 blocks away. If that's the life you're after, this may not be the right city, and there's no shame in that answer. The families who build a good life here choose it deliberately. They knew what they were gaining and knew exactly what they were giving up. They didn't just move here because the financial logic pointed here. They moved here because they actually wanted this life. Miami rewards that kind of intention. It's a harder experience for families who arrive and expecting one city and found something else a little bit more complex. Miami in 2026 is genuinely a compelling place to build a life. The weather, the culture, the financial environment, the way an ordinary week can surprise you, that's all real. So are the schools conversation, the traffic, the full cost of ownership, and the adjustment that comes with living in a city that is very complex. The families who land well here didn't move because the math worked. They moved because they understood the full picture and chose it anyways. That's the decision worth making, and now you have what you need to make it clearly. I want to hear from you. Where are you on this decision? Are you leaning toward making the move, or is something still giving you pause? Drop it down in the comments below. I read everything and I'll give you a straight answer. If you're at the stage where you want to have a real conversation about whether this move makes sense for your situation, I've left my contact information down in the description below. There's no pitch, just a straightforward conversation. And if you found this useful, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so that you know when new videos drop. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.